Okay, we're going to talk about how you build an admissions brand. First of all, where should you start? The first place to start is make sure you know what an admissions brand is. If you're not really sure what an admissions brand is, take a look at some of our resources, really get to understand exactly what we mean by admissions brand. Essentially, what we mean are the key character traits that you want to portray to the admissions committee that make you a differentiated and relevant admissions candidate. So where do you even start once you know what a brand is? Where do you start on how to actually build a brand? Well, the first place is start with the Admit Me brand template. That will help you organize your ideas and your thoughts as you're building out your brand identity. Brainstorm what you think you're good at. Think about the feedback you may have received from others in an academic setting or even in your personal life. What are you really good at? What do you do that makes you unique, that makes you a differentiated candidate through this process? One thing you can do if you have work experience, go through your annual reviews. Take a look at what your boss and others have said about you and what they think makes you a differentiated worker. Those same types of attributes can make you a differentiated application candidate. Make sure you have specific stories that show or demonstrate those attributes. So it's not enough to say that I'm analytical or quantitative or strategic or entrepreneurial. Those are great words, but what have you done that actually demonstrates that? If you don't have specific stories that demonstrate an attribute, then it's no longer an attribute. You got to get rid of it. Take it out of there. It's not going to be something that you can use in your application. If you get stuck, ask friends, ask family, ask coworkers. Certainly they may give you some stuff and tell you about all the things you don't do great, but certainly they'll be able to give you some things that they believe do make you a differentiated person, a differentiated leader, and certainly a differentiated application candidate. All right, narrowing down the list. So you have a pretty broad list. Maybe you have more than, say, 6 or 7 key attributes. Once you have that list, think about how those character traits match with your career outcomes. So, maybe one of your character traits is that you're very frugal. That would be one of mine. Good with money. And it's not necessarily the most amazing character trait for medical school, as an example, but could be really great for business school if you want to go into finance and run operations for a company. So think about the relevance of the character traits you have and how those fit into what you ultimately want to do for graduate school and postgraduate school. But think about the character traits and how you might be able to spin them in a way that makes it advantageous for you. For example, to take our example about frugal, if you use frugal as an example and you say, you know what, instead of frugal, I'm going to talk about resourcefulness and the fact that I'm able to, find money from different places, ask different people, uncover rocks to find this and that, is actually a trait of resourcefulness, which would be an amazing trait for medical school, right? Medical schools are looking for people that can think outside the box, that can think on their feet, that are very resourceful with what they have. So you turn something that may not be a great fit into something that is a great fit just based on your word choice and how you framed that character trait. In terms of making sure that your brand is actionable and that you've settled on character traits that are workable, not too complicated, not too abstract, etc., you will know that when you look at your brand character traits and they're kind of to the point, they're very clear, they're not overly complicated, right? The simpler the better on these character traits. When you think about things like, as an example, high-level thought provider or high-level leading thinker, right? That's not a great character trait, but let's say strategic thinker might be a better character trait, or even strategic, right? Being as simple as you can and then being able to speak to that, exactly what it means in your stories that support that character trait of being strategic in this case, that is going to give you the best possible outcome in terms of brand. As long as you have a story to support it, it's not going to be too abstract because you're ultimately going to have that story that brings in exactly why you believe that you're the character, that character trait is you. It's going to be the old mantra of show, don't tell. If you have the character trait and you're able to demonstrate that trait through a story in your personal, professional, or community experiences, then it's okay to include in your brand.
Admit me, never apply alone.